The studio lights blazed bright over the glossy set of Today with Jenna and Friends, but the warmth they gave off did nothing to cut through the frost that had suddenly filled the room. Kevin Costner sat rigid in his chair, his signature calm unraveling with every passing second. What was supposed to be a friendly morning chat about his new Western film had taken a sharp, unexpected turn. Jenna Bush Hager, usually all smiles and charm, had just asked a question that hung in the air like a slap. "Kevin, some people say your behavior on set has been difficult lately, that you've become a bit of a diva since Yellowstone. What do you say to that?" The crowd chuckled awkwardly, thinking it was lighthearted banter. But Kevin's eyes told a different story, cool, sharp, and offended. He leaned forward, resting his hands on his knees, and the grin he forced barely masked the tension in his jaw. "You know, Jenna," he said slowly, his deep voice steady but strained, "I've worked in this business for 40 years. I've treated every person I've worked with, from the crew to the studio heads, with respect. I'm not sure what kind of diva you've been hearing about, but I can promise you it's not me." Jenna shifted in her seat, caught off guard by the gravity in his tone. The camera zoomed in, catching the faint glint of anger in Kevin's eyes. The atmosphere in the studio, once light and filled with laughter, now crackled with a tension so thick even the live audience held their breath. The teleprompter scrolled on, oblivious to the fact that this was no longer a scripted moment. And then Kevin stood. The microphone wire tugged against his chest as he pulled it free. "If this is what passes for journalism now," he muttered, his voice low and bitter, "then I think I've said enough." As the stunned crew scrambled, Jenna's expression froze between shock and regret. Cameras kept rolling as Kevin turned his back on the set, his boots echoing on the studio floor. The audience gasped, half in disbelief, half in awe. No one spoke. The only sound was the door closing behind him, sharp, final, and unforgettable. Backstage, the tension that had ignited on camera only intensified. Producers rushed after Kevin Costner, their headsets buzzing with frantic voices trying to contain the chaos. Kevin's tall frame cut through the narrow hallway, his every step fueled by a mix of anger and disbelief. 40 years, he muttered under his breath, shaking his head. 40 damn years of hard work, and they reduce it to gossip. A few crew members stepped aside, too stunned to speak as he passed. One brave assistant tried to calm him, saying, "Mr. Costner, please, we didn't mean for it to sound that way. Jenna was just—" But Kevin cut her off sharply, his voice low but steady. "Then maybe Jenna should think before she asks questions that have nothing to do with the work." Back on stage, Jenna Bush Hager sat frozen, trying to regain control of the broadcast. Her co-hosts exchanged nervous glances, whispering into their mics as producers urged them to go to a commercial. "Well," Jenna finally said, forcing a nervous laugh, "that wasn't quite how we planned this morning to go." But her voice trembled slightly, betraying her calm facade. Viewers at home could feel it. The unease, the realness, the rare crack in the glossy world of morning television. Within minutes, the segment was clipped and uploaded online. "Kevin Costner walks off Today's show," the captions screamed, spreading like wildfire across social media. Meanwhile, Kevin stood by the studio exit, taking a deep breath. His hands were clenched, but his eyes were steady now, filled not with rage but disappointment. He'd faced hard interviews before, but this felt different. Cheap, sensational, undeserved. A reporter caught up to him outside, shouting, "Kevin, care to comment on what just happened?" He didn't even look back. "No," he said simply, sliding into the black SUV waiting by the curb. "The work speaks for itself." As the door shut and the car pulled away, the city lights reflected off the tinted windows, hiding the expression of a man who'd just reminded the world that even Hollywood legends had their limits. The aftermath of Kevin Costner's walkout was nothing short of explosive. Within hours, clips of the confrontation dominated every corner of the internet, from YouTube thumbnails flashing "Kevin Costner storms off" to trending hashtags like the Costner Clash and Today Show disaster flooding social media. Fans were divided. Some rallied behind Kevin, praising his composure and condemning the hosts for ambushing him with tabloid trash, while others argued that Jenna Bush Hager was simply doing her job. News outlets scrambled to get statements. Gossip sites dissected every second of the broadcast, slowing down the footage, analyzing body language, tone, even Kevin's final glare before he left the stage. By midday, Good Morning America, TMZ Live, and Entertainment Tonight had all replayed the segment on loop, turning what should have been a promotional interview into one of the most talked-about TV moments of the year. Inside NBC headquarters, executives were livid. Meetings were called, emails flew, and producers from Today with Jenna and friends were pulled into emergency discussions. Jenna sat quietly in her dressing room, scrolling through a flood of messages. Some sympathetic, others brutally critical. She'd thought it would be a fun, light segment. She hadn't expected to hit a nerve that deep. Her co-hosts avoided her gaze when she re-entered the studio, sensing the gravity of the fallout. "They're saying he might cancel the rest of his press tour," one whispered. Jenna just nodded silently, her normally bright smile gone. The realization hit her hard. She hadn't just lost an interview. She might have fractured her reputation with one of Hollywood's most respected icons. Meanwhile, Kevin's team released a short, poised statement to the press. Mr. Costner has always believed in the value of honest storytelling and respect in dialogue. Sometimes, when those values aren't met, it's best to walk away. That simple line only fueled the fire. Commentators hailed it as a masterclass in dignity, while others accused the actor of being too sensitive. By nightfall, every entertainment outlet was talking about it, and even late-night hosts were slipping jokes about the Today Show meltdown into their monologues. But behind Kevin's silence was something more complex. A growing frustration with how fame had twisted from appreciation of art to exploitation of drama. And as he sat alone in his hotel suite, watching the replay of the interview in disbelief, one thought echoed in his mind. This isn't what I came here for. 2 days later, Kevin Costner finally broke his silence, not with a tweet or a press statement, but in a calm, measured interview with a respected journalist from Variety. The setting was intimate, a softly lit room in Los Angeles, far removed from the chaotic energy of live television. The interviewer began gently, asking about the viral moment that had set the internet ablaze. Kevin leaned back, thoughtful, his hands folded loosely in front of him. "You know," he said slowly, "I've spent most of my career trying to tell stories that mean something, stories that remind people of decency, integrity, and grace. But lately it feels like that's been replaced by gotcha moments and headlines." He paused, his voice steady but laced with quiet frustration. That morning wasn't about the movie or the work or the craft. It was about bait. "And I don't bite bait." The interviewer nodded, sensing the weight of his words. Kevin continued, his tone firm yet reflective. "I wasn't angry because of a question. I was disappointed. Disappointed that the space that's supposed to celebrate creativity and dialogue has turned into a boxing ring." He took a breath, eyes lowering for a moment. "I respect Jenna and everyone on that show, but there's a line between curiosity and disrespect. I just couldn't sit there and pretend it was okay." Across the country, viewers who had initially mocked the outburst began to see the moment differently. The clip of the interview with Variety spread like wildfire, but this time, the tone had shifted. Hashtags like Ash, Stand with Costner, and Respect the Work began trending, with fans and fellow actors praising his composure and integrity. Even critics who had previously slammed him acknowledged that he had handled the fallout with remarkable restraint. Jenna Bush Hager, meanwhile, released her own heartfelt apology on air, admitting that she had let the moment get away and that her intentions didn't match the impact. The apology was sincere, but the damage had been done. Her show's reputation had taken a hit, and producers knew it. For Kevin, however, it was never about revenge or vindication. When asked if he'd ever return to the Today Show, he smiled faintly. "Maybe someday," he said, his eyes distant but kind. "If they want to talk about the work, the real work, I'll be there. But I won't waste another second arguing about noise." His voice lingered in the air, heavy with conviction. And in that moment, America wasn't just seeing an actor defending his pride. They were witnessing a man standing firmly for the values that had defined his entire career.